Okay, good evening, good day. Today I'm excited. We are going to be talking about something that is life itself, but it's going to be really interesting as far as looking at health and especially sickness. One of the things, if we go back, I remember I did a stream when I was back in Panama, and I was looking for the notes, but I couldn't find it. However, basically, it was talking about supplementation, and the only supplementation that I would recommend, that I would co-sign on. And if you remember, I mean, if you think about it, it's not herbs, it's not vitamins, it's not minerals. If anything, more oftentimes than not, we have basically everything we need in our body. We get everything from almost any source. It may not be in the best form, but we're eating a lot of the things that we need. It's just out of balance. It's not in the right form, and obviously that creates imbalances because it's not in balance in terms of how we ingest it, when we ingest it. So we can look at it a lot of different ways, but what I'm getting at is basically there's one if there's one element, there's one substance in terms of that makes the difference, and especially if we look at it in the realm of addition to our regular meals, our, again, supplement, if I could use that word, and that's enzymes. Enzymes, and I'm going to go through and show for different levels and different types of sicknesses why, and basically it's all about enzymes. And so we're going to get into it, but before I start, I just wanted to discuss some things. We're also going to be talking about the upcoming summer solstice. So that's going to be exciting to talk about. But I really want to get into this, and haven't been on for a while. Been really really busy. Actually, I will be in Richmond, Virginia this Sunday for the Juneteenth block party. So if you're in that area, come to the block party, Juneteenth block party. I'll be in Richmond, Virginia. But it's been a really busy summer. We've been making food again at Cane and Coconut here in DC, Georgia Avenue. And we've been obviously keeping up with all of the juice cleansing. And so I'm really thankful, for everyone that's support. And, unfortunately, I haven't been able to spend much time giving these streams and providing helpful information. So today, I wanted to talk about enzymes in terms of why is probably related to your particular health issue. Okay, so when we look at food can be categorized into three primary levels of in terms of building block nutrition. We got protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Okay, uh, the carbohydrates is we produce the enzyme amylase in the mouth. It's from the saliva. So anytime we're eating any type of starch or any types of sugars, that digestion starts in the mouth. Okay, protein and fats, which are the building blocks, that happens in the gut, in the stomach. So so basically, if we're, you're eating a cooked food diet, then you're basically tapping into the enzymes that your body has. Now, when we look at when we think about everything that we do in life requires enzymes. It is truly life force energy. And if we're not eating living foods, if we're not taking supplemental enzymes, and if we're eating this food, then basically we have digestive enzymes and we have metabolic enzymes. And what the body does in order to compensate for enzymeless food is to tap into our metabolic reserve. Now, the bad news is that we only have a limited amount of enzyme in a lifetime. So if we're eating constantly cooked food, no matter how super wild, alkaline, it's dead food. And it's going to tap into our life force. So so it's very important. If anything, that's probably the number one or the number two reason why anyone should eat an all live food diet or mostly live food diet. Okay, so when we look at it in terms of the protein, starch, and fat, it's not about it's not about obviously we need to eat these in balance, but we need all three. We need fat, we need oils, we need protein, and we certainly need sugar. And the thing is that we need them with living with life force. And if we have it with life force, then it's not going to tap into our life force. Okay. So let's take protein first. Now, protein, again, like I said, the digestion happens in the gut. When, interestingly enough, when we eat protein, we usually are eating it in an improper food combination. And I'm going to get into that as well, because that makes a difference in terms of our assimilation. Now, but I want to really focus on the enzyme. Now, what are some of the issues? Because the thing is that if we're eating excess or a lot of protein, what are some of our protein rich foods? Obviously, we have any type of animal protein, any type of animal flesh. We got soy products, bean products, even like the garbanzo beans or any types of beans. Okay, okay, okay. All right, go upstairs. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. But we all know the protein dominant foods. Probably the best source of protein rich foods is our green leafy vegetables, ironically enough. Okay. We really don't need, protein and where you get your protein from, and every every everything. If it's physical, if any fruit or vegetable, and definitely nut and seed, and nuts and seeds have a higher amount of protein than, of course, our fruits and vegetables. But all of it has protein, just by the simple fact that we can hold it, that is physical. So the fact that we need to eat beans and starches and things that, like brown rice and all of these things, is a fallacy. And if you have when you're eating an excess amount of protein, what ends up is what ends up happening is that we, especially if it's cooked, we need the enzyme protease. And if we're eating more protein than our body can break down and assimilate, these are some of the issues that can happen. And this is short term and long term. My favorite one, first and foremost, infection. Infection. Because when we hear the word infection, what do we think? We think something from outside of us, not something that we ate, but something that some boogeyman, some germ came in and invaded us and infected us. So infection, whether it be bacterial, viral, yeast, fungus, infection is a lack of protease, is really, and you're eating too much protein. Skin issues, acne, long-term cancer, tumors. High protein diet is going to lead to cancer and tumors. Crohn's, IBS, digestive issues, hormonal imbalance, mental issues, loss of muscle tone. Now, why is that? Well, if we're losing muscle tone, it's because protein is what? Acidic. If we're eating a high acid forming diet, the body is going to stay alkaline. If once the body becomes acidic, we die. So in order for the body to remain alkaline, it has all types of ways to maintain alkalinity, which largely means that it will probably draw from the bones, calcium from the bones, and nitrogen from the muscles. So losing muscle tone. Fibroids. Too much protein. Fibroids. Lupus. You probably know somebody that got lupus. Chronic fatigue. Now, what's happening when we're eating too much protein? If we're eating too much protein, we're eating cooked protein, and we're eating it in improper food combination. If we're eating it in improperly, what's happening is that excess protein is putrefying in the system. So we got putrefied debris all through our body, and that's what's creating, again, the cancerous tumors, the skin issues, if it's floating up, again, the mental issues, the fibroids, the heavy menstruating. So again, and then my favorite, infections, that probably a lot of folks unfortunately do what? They go get the antibiotic to fight the infection, when the problem was created by, one, your body is basically overloaded with protein digestion. It's not able to produce enough protease to break down the protein. Okay. So again, that's protein. And again, a lot of our high protein foods, especially for the vegans are probably, the cooked vegans are at probably highest risk, with eating all of the fake lab created fake product meat imitation that's very high in protein. And our body is certainly not living. It's certainly not enzyme active. So those are some of the issues. Next, starches. So if we're eating a lot of starches, right, our body creates an enzyme to deal with the starch, or the enzyme that used to break down the starch, is amylase. And if we're eating too much starch in order to break down the amylase, or to break down the starches, to use the amylase to break down the starches, these are some of the issues that will crop up: allergies, respiratory disorders, inflammation, joint issues. That excess starch will settle in the joints. Gas, bloating, weight gain. Also skin issues. I don't even understand my writing there. So what's happening with the excess starch if we can't break down the excess starch? And it's interestingly enough, that's, when we normally eat starch, we combine it with the protein. So again, that's an improper food combination. So we know that the protein putrefies, but what happens to the starch? The starch ferments. And when we have this fermentation and this excess starch in the body, it creates these issues: the allergies, the respiratory disorders, the skin issues, the joint issues, the gas. If you're gassy, again, you're not able to break down the starches, or and that's usually from the fact that it's both. That it's, you're eating in an improper way as far as the food combining, and it's not enzyme active, it's not living. All right, last but not least, the fats. Now with the fats, that's broken down with an enzyme called lipase. All right, and fats, at least from, from, people are, if you go into a restaurant, vegan or whatever, one of the most effective tools for the restaurant in terms of how they cook food in a fast and expedient way is the deep fryer. Even when I was at the Lancaster Veg Fest 2 weeks ago, and I think every food vendor, vegan food vendor, had a deep fryer out there. Okay, it's fast, it's quick. Basically, they are taking the potatoes or whatever and boiling it in oil. You're talking about just treachery. So what's happening? Well, if we're bringing in dead oils, our body is not going to be able to assimilate these oils. So what's going to happen is that these oils are going to turn rancid. All right. And what's going to happen in the body with a bunch of rancid oil debris? Chronic inflammation, psoriasis or eczema, high blood pressure. Basically, it's like you're contaminating your whole blood highway, your artery veins, your whole lymphatic system, with bad oil. And it's going to create a lot of scar tissue, again, that inflammation, especially in the arteries, and create the high blood pressure. Cellulite, high cholesterol, and also tumors. So, and that is due to the oils. Now that's pretty, when you look at all three lists that I gave out, it's a pretty comprehensive list. And for anything that I didn't list, I'm sure that we can plug it into one of those three. So with that being said, it's almost really, the conclusion is the real reason that you may be sick can be pointed to, again, a lack of life force in your body. The life force is what assimilates, digests, processes the food, and when we lack that life force, it's backed up. And the number one thing to do. Now let's talk solutions. Let's talk what can we do? All right. Number one, first and foremost, I've already pointed it out through this video, is eating living food. Eating as much living foods as possible. If you're eating living foods, you're eating foods that have enzyme, that have energy. All right. Therefore, it doesn't, any other food, these cooked foods, doesn't take away from your life force energy. And you create this backup, and you start to create these issues. That's first and foremost. Second, and probably again, and this is something should be no surprise if you've been following me, you're watching the videos. No surprise, I beat this like a drum. Is fasting. Fasting. What does fasting allow us to do in this case? When we look at it in this way, it allows our body to catch up. Because if we're not eating, we're not using enzymes, our enzymatic life force, our metabolic life force enzymes in our body can start to assimilate this backup. Because again, whether it's inflammation, tumors, irritation, joint issues, gas, skin issues, it's an excess of accumulation of toxemia. Okay, because we're either eating too much or eating foods that don't have its own life force energy. So making fasting a regular part of your lifestyle. We're gonna finish the video. We're gonna talk about the solstice, upcoming summer solstice. It's upcoming, and using this as an opportunity to at least get a couple of days where the body can catch up. When we lose our when we get sick, in large part we lose our appetite. And again, that's the body's divine design, the divine signal to tell you to stop eating. Okay, so number one, eat all or mostly live foods. Number two, fast. Fast is the healer, because again, now that life force energy can start to auto correct these issues. Number three, since we're talking about enzymes, one thing I've been doing is I've been adding cultured foods. Now, I eat once a day, aside from fresh juices, coconut water, and the things that I ingest that are pretty much light, pretty much water. When I eat my one meal a day, I almost always try to include something that's cultured, that's fermented. This has basically living. It's. I mean, you have like fruits and vegetables that have obviously their enzymes in it, but the cultured foods have an extra level of enzymes, an extra level of probiotics that can help to assist in the assimilation of the food. So things like kimchi, sauerkraut, those are two very common examples. It's very easy to make these things. They can be quite costly when you buy them. I don't have, and that's one thing as a chef that I'm really trying to get more into, as far as making my own sauerkraut, making my own kimchi, making my own yogurts. These things, especially the yogurt, because the yogurt now, is usually something with fat. So like coconut or if you're using almonds or macadamia nuts or Brazil nuts, again, our nuts can be very hard, very difficult to digest. Why? Because the way they've been processed, they create the enzyme inhibitors, and that is the opposite of what we want to do. So at the very minimum, if you're eating nuts and seeds, you want to soak them for at least 12 hours to release that enzyme inhibitors, to make it so that it becomes actually a living food. Now, to culture it, it's like you're taking it to another level. So that's number three, eating more cultured foods. When I'm bringing in my fats and proteins with my meal, um, that is what I'm always trying to include. And I've noticed even a difference in my elimination, and even in my digestion. So it's again very powerful practice. Number four, and this is something I always talk about too, is this is what makes urine therapy also very powerful. With urine therapy, and if you're watching me for the first time, urine therapy is, yes, drinking your own urine. Urine has, guess what? Enzymes. And it's the enzymes that you create. If you eat a big salad or you eat fruits and vegetables, again, any life force that your body took to process it will come out in the urine. And I'm talking enzymes. So so I mean, they found that that urine has probably over 2,000 helpful compounds that are useful to the body. So a great handful of those are enzymes. So again, uh, something to add to the list. That's number four. And then number five, and I'll leave it at number five, is to actually consider taking a supplemental enzyme. Now, as a health practitioner, if I'm dealing with somebody with an advanced disease like cancer or tumors, taking a systemic enzyme, something that has that's going to actually help digestion, but is also going to assist in the elimination of the tumor or the inflammation or whatever issue that's in there. Taking a powerful systemic enzyme is something that we should all consider doing as even a maintenance. Now, I don't take an enzyme like as a supplement, but again, if I had to recommend, just as when I did the video a couple of months ago, if there's any supplementation that I would agree with is enzyme supplementation for all the reasons that we stated. So again, number one, eating basically eating a live food diet. Number two, fasting. I mean, fasting is always going to be A1 at the top of any health healing protocol in terms of any issue, whether it be joints, organs, mental, emotional. Fasting is really the age old original medicine for any and everything. Um, Number three, that was number two. Number three, what was number three? Eating more cultured foods. Two good examples you can find in your health food store is kimchi and sauerkraut. You add them as a garnish in your salad, and especially, I eat raw, especially if I'm eating like raw cuisine, because a lot of times, it's going to be some nuts in there. And even though I soak my nuts, in terms of that those protein, because our nuts, we buy in our nuts that they got enzyme inhibitors. They've been dried and they can be very hard and very difficult to digest. So in addition to soaking them for at least 12 hours, and then when I'm making like a nut dish or with seeds, I'm complementing it with fresh vegetables and spices and things like that. Uh, definitely if has urine basically your own enzyme taking taking supplemental enzymes. Soon, I'm in talks with a company right now. I'm gonna probably be carrying their products and I'll be offering them on my website to my clients. Um, so look out for that because I talk about enzymes and I always prescribe them for my clients that have advanced illnesses. Along with diet, lifestyle, fasting, urine. I mean, again, there's not, I've said this before, there's not one thing that makes you healthy, and there's not one thing that makes you unhealthy. It's always an army of things that work collectively that is going to either make you healthy or unhealthy. And so with everything, again, I want to key in and shift the focus to fasting because, again, the fasting is going to always be A1. And, we're coming up on, a divine time right now with the summer solstice. We had our winter solstice time, and I was doing almost daily live streams, and that was a big fasting time for me. The summer solstice, at least energetically, this is a time where we're really coming to an apex. We're coming to a top, energetically speaking. Our digestion should be high. It should be strong because, again, if you're living in the northern hemisphere, which means inside of the equator, for me as a flat earther, um, you know, because the thing is like it's hard for me to explain it from the globe theory because I don't believe in the globe theory. I don't believe that we live on a ball of water that's spinning through space. I believe that we live on a flat plane that extends out beyond where we don't even know, or at least they don't tell us. Um, and one of the things, so as far as like when we look at the summer solstice, if we take the North Pole at the center, the first circle beyond the North Pole is the Tropic of Cancer. So during the Tropic of Cancer, if we know that the sun is rotating above the flat Earth, then what's happening right now with the summer solstice is that the sun is traveling over the Tropic of Cancer. So that's why we have the hotter temperatures if we're living above the equator. Okay. And as we move out to September month and the equinox, then the sun is moving out and it's going to be traveling above the equator. And then, of course, in the wintertime, it's traveling above the Tropic of Capricorn. Now, one of the things last time I talked about flat Earth, I had a couple of people trying to troll me and challenge me. Well, one of the things, very simply, I mean, how high do you have to go up? How high do you have to go above the Earth? Like, let's say, for example, in an airplane. Now, if I travel in an airplane to the other side of the world, if I travel, last year I went to Ghana. So I took a plane from JFK in New York City to Accra, Ghana. Now, if the Earth is spinning, right? If the Earth is spinning, it should one flight should be shorter, much shorter than the other flight, or one flight should be much longer than the other flight because the Earth is spinning. So if a plane rises and takes off and the Earth is spinning, but obviously the plane would be traveling faster than the Earth is spinning, then it would take, so because we know that the Earth is spinning towards the, at least we, for those of you that think that the Earth is spinning, then me going to Ghana from New York City, well, it took 8 hours. So on the way back, guess how long the flight took from Accra? Because if I'm going from Accra, Ghana, to New York City, and the Earth is spinning, then it should take a lot shorter than it did for me going. And we all know that, of course, it was the same amount of time. Again, this is simple mathematics. It took 8 hours. So, with that being said, the Earth, the sun, during the summer solstice is traveling at this time over the Tropic of Cancer. And it's no coincidence that they call it the Tropic of Cancer because at one point during the summer solstice, that's when we know that the sun moves into Cancer. At least the Western system. I follow the Vedic system. And so it should actually be called the Tropic of Gemini. And then in the wintertime, the Tropic of Sagittarius. But we're not going to get into that. But anyway, it's traveling over that circle. So how does that affect us? Well, again, like I said, this is a high energy time because the sun is closest to us as far as this circle that it makes above the Earth right now. And while it is a good time to fast, it's really more of a good time to take stock of the previous 6 months. These last 6 months that, because we have these basically 2 periods of the year. We have the winter solstice to the summer solstice, where we have the shortest days. Now we have the longest days. We have the high energy. So this is a time to really, again, the winter solstice, we're really planning and plotting for this next 6 months. Now, it's not the best time or the ideal time in terms of as far as starting something new, but the energy is high and the energy will carry us through the summer months. But at this time, it's really more of a time to start reflecting on the previous 6 months. Now, from a health perspective, again, this is an opportunity to fast at least 3 to 4 days during that period, because it is a shift where the sun it's making its inner circle, and then now it's starting its path or its journey back to the equator, and then of course to the Tropic of Capricorn, where it's going to be on the outer edge of the Earth. All right, so but it's always a great time to fast, especially during these pivot points, as I like to call them. It is a time where our system can use that rest, and give us that revitalization to carry us through these summer months. But it's not a time for me, and this is why I do more of a shorter fast during this time. I would say at least 3 days, 3 to 4 days should be good. Should be sufficient until we reach the fall equinox. And I like to do at least a week with the fall equinox, and then a longer fast with the winter solstice, of course. All right. So again, that's my spiel. It's been a minute since I've been on here, and again, if you want to support my work, support the channel, hit the Cash App, $ Kepra Raw, Cash App, $ Kepra Raw. If you have any questions, I'll take some questions. Let's see. Okay. The brother here asked the question about wart removal. And again, everything I talked about applies. Um, First and foremost, with the warts, again, we talked about the skin issues. We talked about the skin issues. So the thing is that again, the wart, because the thing is that when the body creates these issues, this is the body's way of dealing with excess toxemia. Okay, because we don't have the enzymatic ability to process what we're putting into our body. So we got to first look at the diet. We got to look at doing a fast, probably an extended fast, maybe even adding the urine. Now with warts, I would be looking at treating it with aged urine. So with aged urine, it's actually taking your own urine, putting it into a container, and letting it sit covered. If it's uncovered, it's really going to smell. So you want to let it sit covered, and it's got to sit for at least a week. But the longer it sits, the stronger it gets, and the better and more healing that it gets. So I would be treating it daily throughout the day with aged urine, and this would be a great issue to tackle, to use strong proteolytic enzymes, strong enzyme therapy over some weeks, maybe even months, and I'm sure you'll see some improvement. So really, I mean, great question. But everything I talked about, because it's not going to be just one thing. It's going to be a collection of things. It's going to be, again, the diet. It's going to be the attitude. It's going to be the not eating, the fasting. And then of course, if you want to do your urine, again, the urine is your perfect medicine that you create. So good question. All right. So I'm going to look on here on Instagram. Yeah, so if you have any questions, again, this Sunday for Juneteenth, I'll be in Richmond, Virginia. If you're in Richmond area, definitely come by the Block Party Juneteenth Festival. I don't have the information, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions. All right. I don't see any other questions. So again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I'm going to sign off now. If you watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification, and comment below if you have a question. Definitely engage in the video, support the channel. I'm trying to reach the 10,000 subscriber mark here on YouTube. So share the video, support the good work, allow the channel to grow, and I'm gonna keep coming with informative videos and looking to educate. And I'm also available for consultations, private consultations. I do astrological readings as well, so you can hit me up on through my website, chefkepper.com. You can send me an email if you're interested in that. But again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I will see y'all again very soon. Peace and love.